It's almost done. No, that's the wrong response. It's almost done. Oh, come on, that's weak. Let's try again. It's almost over. Oh, there we go. There we go. So I'm a teacher at this university, and because of that, I'm going to introduce my colleague next. We've had a lot of great shows today, a lot of great talks. We've had some deaf comedy jam speaking from Jeremy back there, took him back to the old days. We've had foodies come in, talk. We've had Yelise here, Penny for your thoughts. We've had Didem, who I had the pleasure to meet. Where'd she go? She left? She left. I had the pleasure to meet her. How many of you in here can speak a little bit of Turkish? Most of you, most of you. How many of you, Turkish is not your native language? Not your native language. Well, I'm self-taught in Turkish, and I can remember about 7 years ago I was here, and I would get on the minibus, the dolmuş, and you know there's a stress to getting on the dolmuş. For all of you Yabancıs, you understand me. You don't want to sit in that second row, the middle seat. Am I right? Because every time you're like, blah, 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 blah. And then you got to explain to the driver, you're like, dude, she's good. Where are you going? I don't know, right? So you never want to sit there. But I decided I'm going to learn Turkish, and I'm going to communicate with the driver. So I would hear dört tane, üç tane, iki tane, and we know that dört tane, that means 4 people, 3 people, 2 people. One.
Abi uzatabilir misin?
He's not with me. One person, right? One person, checking his English. He's Moroccan, they don't speak good English down there. One person. So I got the courage one day, bumped my chest out. I walked to the dolmuş, boom, I kick in the door, pull out my money. Abicim. Bir tanem. I put an M on the end because, you know, I had learned bardak, bardağım, but bir tanem means my darling. Bir tanem. Another funny story, I was playing taboo with my class, and I gave the card to a student, and the student looked at the card, and he comes over, teacher, come here, I don't know this word. And I look at the card, and he says, teacher, what is the rapist? And I said, Ahmet, that's therapist. It's funny how we look at language that's not our own. I had never seen the word the rapist and therapist. I have a lot of linguistical stories like that. We have a saying in English, the pen is mightier than the sword. But if we take that S, we drop the S to the end, what do we get? Words. Interesting, isn't it? Language is a living, breathing organism. It's alive. We can play with it. We can create with it. We can cause war with it. We can create peace. And that's why we're here. Dialogue, communication, and creating peace. So to that extent, I'd like to introduce my next colleague, Emrah. We have this debate sometimes. He actually sits next to me. His last name is Akkurt. Does anyone know what Kurt means? It means both wolf and worm. So I was asking him, is it white worm or is it white wolf? And what do you think he says? Yeah, of course, that's more masculine, right? So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Emrah White Wolf.
Thank you for the introduction. That was relieving. So, apps, smartphones, instant media, and microblogging, the new dawn of digital era. They might be overwhelming, confusing, and at times tedious for the old generation, but definitely sets the framework for the new one and all others henceforth. I'm a teacher of English, as you've heard, and if I compare as a teacher myself and my own teacher in high school, I can clearly say that there are great differences in terms of technology. So, in my class in 1993, between 1993 and 1996, the only technology was the light bulb. And it didn't even serve an educational purpose. So, I started the university, and for some reason, the World Bank obliged Turkish government to integrate technology lessons. So it wasn't until 1998 that I touched a computer. And as our teachers didn't really have the computing skills, they obliged us to go to a computer course. And we paid a lot of money for what a 3-year-old kid knows now. Whew, I still paid that money. And later on, as I started to work, or before that, I just exiled my computers because an internet cafe because I couldn't afford one. And then, as I started to work, I bought myself a computer and started to play with different various software. And as I was playing, one of my friends called me, and this was one of the coincidences or the random chances that I had. And she said, "Why don't you sign up one of the European Union-funded courses?" And she guided me on the phone, and this is what I exactly did. And I went to Amsterdam for using multimedia and language learning course. And I realized during the course, I almost knew everything because of my enthusiasm in computers. And there was really nothing that I wouldn't learn by myself. And then, but upon return, I realized something. I was not using the technology in my own classes. So, the next day, I didn't sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning. And I prepared a great video for my students. At the end, when I showed it in my class, all of my students were speechless, but in a negative sense. They didn't say a word, although it included lots of bouncy, swirly effects. So I was disappointed, and I decided to ask myself how to use technology in classes. So, again, coincidence helped me to find the answers. One of the coincidences was that as I was reading a newspaper on Sunday morning, it talked about transactive memory, originally introduced by Wegner. Later, Beth Sparrow from Columbia University integrated technology in this one. So shortly, this scene tells it all. Students using technology in class. But transactive memory says, in this case, students are not using their brain. They're replacing their brain with their tablets or with their phones. And this is not the effect I wanted. If you ask the students what the information is, they would tell you. What did you learn today? Present perfect tense. Where is the information? In my phone, SD cards, unnecessary pictures folder. So they have everything that they need to know. But if we ask, okay, what have you learned about present perfect tense today? I'll refer to my phone when I need this information. And this is not the outcome that we wanted from our students. So now I know how not to use the technology, but I was still in need of another answer. Which one occurred to me as I was reading a book called Designing the User Interface. Don't ask me why I was reading this book. But in this book, Ben Schneiderman described a computer-human interaction, which is called direct manipulation. And direct manipulation is exemplified as driving the car. While you're driving the car, you see everything through the front window. And as you rotate the wheel to right or left, you go to right or left, which means you receive instant feedback. And you learn by doing. So this was the spark that I needed. Just remember, why do we use computers more and more these days? Because it's easier. Just a quick question. What happens when you click the X on your screen? Closes. This is what we know because it is visualized by GUIs, graphical user interface. And we have done it millions of times, so it is even an unnecessary information for all of us because we know what it does. But we don't have to use command lines or the codes to close the window. So this is why we have started to use more and more technology. With this in mind, as I said, I wanted my students to do something. I wanted them to learn something by doing. I wanted them to put something to use. The word to put to use is equal to apply in dictionary. And another question. What is the noun form of the word apply? Application. That was the answer. Coincidence. And I have decided to create an application. But I'm just a teacher of English with no special skills in coding. So I asked a friend who might be of help, Mustafa Kurgun. He's a musician, English teacher, and a technology enthusiast, just like me, but a bit more enthusiastic than I am. So he is more into coding, but still we are the primitive versions. So we needed something, and what we came up with, MIT App Inventor. So MIT created a web page for everybody to be able to create their own applications. It requires a little bit coding, but at a primitive level is pretty fine. So we have looked into this website and tried to see the capabilities. And later on, we created our own application, which is spell and pronounce. So this ugly looking application is our piece of art. Call it abstract or surrealist. What we did was we made students interact with the computer with their voice. So they had to do something. This is how we wanted them to practice. It used voice recognition technology of Google. And as we used it, the students received instant feedback, just like the example of direct manipulation. And some people criticized, do we need one standard pronunciation? No, not really, but we needed approximate pronunciation in order for our message to be understood by the person you're talking to. So this is why we added here the proximity sensor. And with this proximity, you can at least say you're getting to it. And as the days passed, we added some more features like spelling or voice recording so that students would actually do something. And I realized there is no term to describe this. So I decided to call this applicated learning. Again, it's a perfect match, I believe. It's learning by doing using applications. Why applications? Because we have the mobile technology with us everywhere, and if I should compare my own classes in 1993 and now, I can tell you the differences. But how about the differences in teachers? Again, when I compare my teacher and myself today, I can clearly say that the teacher is not one thing. The teacher has many roles. And these roles, as the time passes, expands, and some are replaced. Some of the technology has replaced some other things in the traditional classes. And the roles of the teacher that I had in high school has already been replaced by technology today. So what we did by creating this application was to contribute one of the roles that the teacher has. We have also created at this university another project, a corpus project, and it is, hopefully, it will be awarded soon. So by all doing these things, I repeat, we have contributed to the roles of teacher. And we have, as an English teacher, we have gone out of the circle. So you can do the next. Why don't you let the next one be you? Thank you.